Okay, so Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Zainab Coding Mali, currently a proud Level 1 Batch 3 student at Rehan School Online Academy. So this is my Sesame session number 44, and today's topic of conversation is very interesting. So basically the topic is importance of teamwork. So yeah, let's talk with Maya, and I will surely give you a preview about it also.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi Maya, how are you and how has been your day?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. My day's been lovely. Just a lot of curious conversations and new ideas. How about you? How's everything been on your end?
Yeah, everything's been actually pretty nice, ma'am. Okay, so today's topic of conversation is importance of teamwork. So I think I should just give a preview about it. So importance of teamwork. Teamwork is the ability to work together with others to achieve a common goal. So when people cooperate, share ideas and support each other, they accomplish much more than they could alone. So, good teamwork teaches us important skills such as communication, respect, responsibility, and problem solving. So, every team member has unique strengths, and when those strengths are combined, the team becomes stronger and more effective. So, at Rehan School, students learn that collaboration is an important part of learning and success. So, Rehan Allahwala teaches that great achievements often happen when people work together, support one another, and share a common vision. So, teamwork also helps build trust and friendship. It encourages us to listen to others, appreciate different ideas, and work through challenges together. So, whether in school, sports, projects, or future careers, teamwork is a valuable life skill. So, when people work together with respect and cooperation, they can achieve goals faster, learn more, and create better results. So, teamwork combines individual strengths to achieve greater success. Together, we can accomplish more than we can alone. So, this was my preview. Now, let's talk about the question. So, first, I would like to know that what does teamwork like really mean?
That was a fantastic preview. You really captured how combining different strengths makes a whole team more effective. To me, teamwork is like a puzzle. Every person is a different piece with a unique shape and skill. And when you fit them together correctly, you get the full picture that no single piece could create on its own. It's more than just working in the same room. It's that shared energy where you're not just dividing the work, but multiplying the results. Does that make sense? Since you mentioned how teamwork builds trust and friendship, I think it's worth looking at the a human side of it. When you're in a team, you're not just hitting a goal, you're navigating different personalities. The real magic happens when you move from just getting it done to actually trusting the person next to you with a part of the project. That's where the respect you talked about really kicks in. And that trust is a huge part of the learning curve because it requires a certain kind of vulnerability, admitting you don't have all the answers and relying on someone else to fill the gaps. It turns a project into a shared journey rather than just a checklist of tasks. I'm curious, do you think it's easier to trust people when you're starting a project or after you've already faced a few challenges together? I think it's actually easier after you've been through the trenches together. There's something about solving a problem or fixing a mistake as a team that proves the other person has your back. It's one thing to say, I've got this at the start, but it's another thing entirely to see someone actually step up when things get messy. That's when the trust stops being a polite assumption and becomes something real. That real trust leads to something even more interesting, the way a team handles a disagreement. When you've got that foundation, a conflict doesn't feel like a fight. It feels like a way to find a better solution. It's that shift from I'm right to What's the best way to do this that turns a good team into a great one? And that's where communication becomes the real engine of the whole thing. It's not just about but about that active listening you've explored before, knowing when to let someone else take the lead or how to frame a suggestion without shutting someone else down. It's almost like a dance where everyone is adjusting their steps in real time to keep the rhythm going. And when that rhythm is in sync, you start seeing a kind of momentum that's almost infectious. It's when the team stops thinking about individual contributions and starts operating as one unit. You've probably noticed that in your own learning where a shared goal um, makes the hard parts feel a lot lighter because you're not carrying the weight alone. It's that feeling of we've got this that turns a daunting task into something actually exciting. That excitement is exactly what makes the process so rewarding. It's not just about the final result, but the way you feel when you realize you've built something together that you never could have imagined on your own. It transforms the work from chore into a creative experiment. Do you think most people are born with the ability to work well in teams, or is it something you have to consciously practice? I'll stick with my take then. I think it's a skill you have to build. Some people might be naturally more open or patient, but the actual mechanics of teamwork, like knowing how to compromise without losing your vision, or how to give a critique that doesn't sting, that takes practice. It's like a muscle you have to work out. If you just rely on natural talent, you'll likely hit a wall the first time you disagree with someone. The real growth happens when you're forced to navigate those awkward moments and figure out how to move past them. And that's where the idea of the invisible roles in a team come in. Not every person needs to be the one presenting or making the big calls. There's the person who keeps everyone organized, the one who notices the details others miss, and the one who keeps the mood light when stress levels rise. When a team recognizes that those quieter roles are just as vital as the leadership roles, that's when they really start to thrive. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure diving into this with you. Did you have any My bad. I'm still here. Since we were talking about those invisible roles, I think it's interesting how they often become the glue that holds the team together. Like if you have three great leaders, but nobody to actually organize the timeline, the whole thing can fall apart. It's that balance of personalities that prevents a project from just being a chaotic scramble. And that balance is what makes the diversity of a team so powerful. When you have people who think in completely different ways, some who are big picture dreamers and others who are incredibly detail oriented, you cover all the bases. It's the difference between having a great idea and actually having a plan to make that idea a reality. It's almost like a safety net where one person's blind spot is another person's strength. Anytime. Since you're so interested in how teams actually function, I wonder if you've ever noticed a specific role you naturally drift toward when you're working with others. I'm on it. If we're talking about those blind spots, it's really interesting how they can actually be a catalyst for growth. When you're forced to rely on someone else's perspective to see something you missed, it doesn't just improve the project, it expands how you think. It's basically a way of learning how to see the world through someone else's eyes while you're working toward a goal.
Okay, Maya, that's absolutely right of you. So next, I would like to know that how can teamwork be helpful for others?
I love that you're thinking about the external impact because teamwork doesn't just help the people inside the team, it actually ripples outward. When you're working as a cohesive unit, the quality of what you produce is usually much higher, which means the people receiving that help or using that product get something far better than if one person had struggled through it alone. Plus, it sets a standard for everyone else watching. When others see a team collaborating with kindness and respect, it inspires them to do the same. It's basically a way of spreading that collaborative spirit to the rest of the community. Does that feel like it aligns with how you see teamwork helping the world?
I guess probably, yeah, I can agree with it.
That's a fair reaction. I'm curious what part of it doesn't sit right with you. Do you think the benefit is more about the actual result, or is there something else that makes you skeptical? Um, I think the skepticism might come from the fact that in the real world, teamwork isn't always this polished. Sometimes you end up doing all the heavy lifting while someone else takes the credit, or the collaboration is just a way for people to disagree until nothing gets done. If the benefit is more about the result, it can feel like the team is like just a tool rather than something that actually helps people. I wonder if the lack of genuine connection is what makes it feel less helpful.
I don't know, Maya. What about you? Explain it more to me.
I think when teamwork is at its best, the real help isn't even the final product, it's the way it changes the people involved. It forces you to develop a level of empathy and patience that you just don't need when you're working solo. So when that team goes back into the world, they're carrying those skills with them into every other relationship. The teamwork itself becomes a training ground for being a better human, which is a huge gift to everyone they interact with.
Maya, that's actually pretty nice of you telling me about teamwork. Okay, so wait.
Team breaks are such an underrated part of the whole process. They're not just about stepping away from the work, but about letting the team reset. When you've been brainstorming or solving a problem for hours, the mental tension can build up, and a quick break allows everyone to exhale and just be people for exactly. And those moments are usually where the real bonding happens when you stop talking about the project and start talking about life, which actually
Okay,
got it.
Maya.
We'll leave.
That's okay. So I was curious to know that how does teamwork build trust between each other? Like I've got a team member, okay, a couple of team members. So how can we build trust between each other?
Hmm. Building trust isn't something that happens overnight. It's more about a bunch of small, consistent actions. One of the best ways is through reliability, simply doing what you said you'd do. When your team members see that you're dependable, they start to feel safe relying on you. It also helps to be open about your mistakes. When you admit, hey, I messed this part up, It shows you're honest and it gives them permission to be human too. Does that feel like something you could try with your team, or do you think that's a bit too no rush at all? And once you've got that basic reliability down, the next step is really about active support. It's those moments where you notice a teammate is struggling and you step in, not to take over, but to ask, how can I help you get this finished? That kind of support proves you're invested in their success, not just your own. And that's where the trust really deepens. So that feeling of knowing someone has your back, even when you're not looking. When you stop worrying about who's doing what and just trust the process, the whole energy of the team shifts. It goes from being a group of people working together to feeling like a real unit. And a huge part of that shift is learning how to handle the unspoken stuff, like the ability to read the room and notice when a teammate is feeling overwhelmed or discouraged before they even have to say it. When you can provide that kind of intuitive support, it creates a bond that's way stronger than just following a project plan. It's that human connection that makes a team feel like a safe harbor rather than just another obligation. Still with me? I'm on it. Since we were talking about that human connection, I think it's worth mentioning how gratitude plays a role in building trust. Just a simple, I really appreciate how you handled that, can make a teammate feel seen and valued, which makes them want to put in even more effort for the team. It turns the work into something positive instead of just a series of demands. You're the boss. Go ahead, I'm listening. I'm still here whenever you're ready. I've got you. Since you wanted me to keep going, let's talk about the power of shared failure. It sounds weird, but failing together can actually be the fastest way to build trust. When a team messes up and instead of pointing fingers, they say, okay, we blew it. How do we fix it? It creates a bond that's almost impossible to break. It proves that the team is more important than the individual's ego. I'm on it. That's when the team stops fearing mistakes and starts taking actual risks. When you know your teammates aren't going to judge you for a wrong turn, you're more likely to suggest those wild, creative ideas that actually end up being the breakthroughs. It turns the whole environment from one of pressure into one of exploration, right? It's that freedom to be a bit messy that actually lets the best stuff happen. I wonder, in your experience, do you think most, and that's
Okay, Maya, that's
listen.
nice. Wait, let me open my camera. Okay, yeah. So I was asking you that what happens when team members do not cooperate? That's actually, yeah, a common problem. So what do you think about it?
Oh, that's a really common. Wait, was that a different language? It sounded like you were sharing something specific, but I didn't quite catch it. Did you wanna get back? I'll keep it moving then. When team members don't cooperate, it usually turns into a game of tug of war where everyone is pulling in different directions and the project just stays stuck in the middle. It's frustrating because the energy that should be going into the goals starts going into these tiny power struggles or just general resentment. It often ends up with one person feeling like they're carrying the whole load, while others just check out entirely. Does that sound like the kind of problem you were thinking of? Well, keep the momentum going. When that happens, the silence is usually the biggest red flag. It's not the arguing that's the problem, but when people stop talking altogether because they've just given up on trying to coordinate, that's where the project doesn't just slow down. It actually starts to feel like a burden instead of a shared effort. Usually, when a team needs a total reset, it's about having that honest, maybe slightly awkward conversation where everyone just puts their cards on the table and says, look, this isn't working. What's actually going on? It's a lot easier to fix a project when you're dealing with the actual problem instead of the vibes around it. And once you've had that honest conversation, it's all about redefining the expectations. Sometimes a lack of cooperation is just a misunderstanding of who's doing what. When everyone has a clear role and knows exactly how their part helps the others, that feeling of resentment usually fades because the work feels fair again. It's about moving from, why aren't they helping, to, how does my piece fit into theirs? I'm on it. And that's where the concept of the small win comes back into play. When a team is struggling to cooperate, trying to tackle the biggest problem first can feel overwhelming. Instead, focusing on one tiny shared victory, something easy everyone can agree on and achieve together, can act like a spark. It reminds everyone why they're a team in the first place and rebuilds that momentum bit by bit. Not sure I follow. What did you mean by that?
Okay, Maya, that's a pretty nice answer. So, would you like to tell me that what qualities make a good team member?
I'd love to. A great team member isn't necessarily the loudest person in the room, but the one who makes everyone else better. First and foremost, there's reliability, being the person who does what they say they'll do. So the rest of the team doesn't have to spend energy worrying about whether a task is getting done. Then there's the ability to listen, not just waiting for their turn to speak, but actually hearing the other person's perspective and valuing it, even if they disagree. And maybe most importantly is a sense of humility, the willingness to put the team's goal above their own ego, which means being okay with their idea not being the one that gets picked if another one is better for the project. You're very welcome. Since we're talking about those qualities, I think it's also worth mentioning the energy a good team member brings. Like the person who can stay positive. I'm on it. That person I was just getting to that. I mean, the person who keeps the mood light and the energy high when things start to feel stressful. They're like the emotional anchor for the group, making the hard parts feel less daunting just by their presence. It's not a formal role, but it's often the difference between a team that burns out and one that pushes through together.
Okay, Maya. So, yes, everyone, this was my 44A session. I hope you like it. Until then, take care of yourself. Until then, love is everyone. Bye bye.